Hey guys, Sean here. I am feeling rather positive about the silver market, and I believe 2022 might be gearing up to be the start of a big move up. For the last few years, silver has really been falling behind. The metal is still down a few dollars from 12 months ago, while everything from crypto to equities had been flying up in a bull market, right? But I think there's a shift happening from speculative and risky assets to real stores of value that include gold and silver. And in this video, we'll be discussing 5 major moves happening right under our noses that are setting the stage for breakout in silver prices. So grab a drink, strap yourselves in, and let's dive in. If you're a stacker, you already know that the long-term price of silver will eventually rise higher thanks to inflation and a move towards green energy. It's not a surprise anymore. Any monkey knows the more money you print, the more expensive things will cost relative to the dollar, right? Most of us here see silver as a store of value or a kind of long-term savings plan to preserve our purchasing power. But certain events are conspiring together that might signal the start of a bull market for this decade, guys. I believe the perfect storm is brewing for silver, and whether you're an investor or stacker or short-term speculator, you need to pay attention to these events if you want to continue acquiring more silver before the prices starts to spike. Silver could actually be the investment of the year or even decade if these events fully play out. Now, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that in early January this year, the Fed has been threatening a taper and an interest rate hike. And Jerome Powell just recently announced that a rate hike of 50 basis points will happen in March. While we won't know for sure if it will really happen, this is causing turmoil in the markets, right? The tech-heavy Nasdaq is down over 14%, the S&P 500 has taken a 9% hit, and Bitcoin has crumbled by nearly 23%. But interestingly enough, gold and silver has actually gone up by 1 to 3% during the same period, especially silver. Traditionally, this shouldn't happen. When there's a crash, normally everything would fall together in tandem, right? Sure, gold and silver might fall less than other assets, but they all collapse together. So what is going on? I believe the reason why silver is so resilient and staying strong is because of a shift from risky assets towards real assets, right? And all this is happening under the radar of mainstream media, right? When I hit to CNBC, it's either the stock market this or Bitcoin that. Attention still isn't given to gold and silver, but the numbers don't lie, guys. Right now, we are seeing amazing inflows into the silver ETF where most mainstreamers get into the metal, and this shows quite a momentum is building. And it's rather easy to see why. The Fed has more than doubled their balance sheet in 2 years, and the money supply has almost tripled within the last decade, right? And even though a taper and interest rate hikes are on the cards, I think the damage has already been done. You can't just inject so much money into the system and think there will be no consequences, right? There's too much money sloshing around in the system and people are getting very afraid. They no longer believe that the stock market will continue to rise forever without a correction. I really think that people are starting to wake up to precious metals, maybe not all at once, but it's starting to happen, right? We need to pay a close attention to the coming Fed rate hike and really see how strong and resilient silver will be once it actually happens, right? I have a feeling that silver will continue to hold firm and withstand this headwind, and if that happens, it's a good sign for the future. I think a real tailwind for silver is how much inflation has risen, not just in the United States but globally as well. Remember when Powell said that inflation was transitory? Well, it has reached 7% and this is fast spreading across the globe. Turkey's currency, the lira, has hit 36% inflation rate, and it's getting so bad that even the government there is trying to lure their citizens to convert their gold into lira by giving guarantees. And personally, I think that is a crazy idea. Even if the Turkish government will reimburse the depreciation of the lira, people who convert will lose out if gold price rises, right? Now, the average investor today isn't stupid, and we are all seeing this. 7% inflation is nothing to cheer about. It actually means we will lose 50% of our purchasing power in 10 years. Even if the Fed is going to raise interest rates by 50 basis points, which is 0.5%, real interest rates are still negative. And I think as investors, we are truly caught between a rock and a hard place. If stocks today are still overvalued, I mean the P ratios for stocks are still at all-time highs, and with inflation being so high, holding your money in cash means seeing its purchasing power just evaporate into thin air. It's pretty hard to decide where to invest. And I think mainstream investors are getting increasingly worried. And that is why I believe money is flowing into precious metals, because for the last few thousand years, it has been a reliable store of value. Once upon a time, dollars was pegged to gold and silver, and people haven't forgotten about this. I think it's embedded deep in our DNA to recognize gold and silver as money. I believe this time the move towards precious metals wouldn't be out of greed, it might be out of fear. And fear, in my opinion, is the more powerful emotion and could really move mountains. Now, the third factor concerns the fate of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. The United States has a rising trade deficit with the world, especially China, and this alone has almost reached an astounding $400 billion in 2021. For years and even decades, the US has been consuming more than it produces, and in exchange for real goods, they export US dollars that it can print at will. That's crazy, right? Now, exchanging funny money for real products might seem like a good deal, but the thing is that China and the rest of the world isn't stupid, and some countries are already taking steps to de-dollarize. And the most obvious way is to slowly let go of their treasuries, right? Russia has already pledged to remove the US dollar from their sovereign wealth fund. And even though China is the United States' biggest trading partner and they have historically parked their dollars in US treasuries, something funny is happening, right? You can see that there's almost no growth in treasury holdings, just a 1.6% increase over the last 12 months. Instead, China might be using those excess dollars that they get to buy real assets from farmland to gold. In fact, they have bought around 813 tons of gold in just the first 9 months of 2021 itself. Now, is this a coincidence? I really don't think so. And you might be wondering, who cares, right? Well, you have to care because eventually those dollars might come back to the United States if the confidence in the dollar continues to drop. And let's be real, right? Who wants to hoard something that can be printed into thin air? And this flow of dollars back to the United States will cause real assets like silver to really rise in price because it is both a monetary and industrial metal that has to be used, right? There are no ifs or maybe silver has to be consumed for this world to function. Now, if you think things can't get any worse, it has. The world is slowly descending into chaos and we might be at the brink of a small war that could really escalate, right? Russian troops are gathering at the border of Ukraine, and if you didn't know by now, Putin really wants that country back for a long time. Now, I don't want to debate whether it is right or wrong, but I just want to focus on the financial aspect. This gathering of forces has shocked the world to the point Biden has placed around 8,500 troops on high alert and has pledged 200 million in defense to Ukraine. And it's no wonder silver surged above $24 after hearing this news, right? Geopolitical tension and war has always been a kind of tailwind for precious metals, and especially silver, which is used in the war industry and military technology, guys. From developing cruise missiles to Apache helicopters, you need silver in warfare. Now, I understand this is necessary, but war is highly inflationary with no good impact on the economy, right? It's truly horrific for both human life and for the economy. It is one of the most unproductive ways to print and spend money. The money just literally vanishes into thin air, and any silver that's used just disappears in the process and can't really be recovered, right? I'm not saying that a war will break out between Ukraine, USA, and Russia. In fact, this is just probably a show of force on both sides. But the longer things drag out, the more money is being wasted. And if war really does break out, right, if on the off chance the worst does happen, the move for silver would be tremendous. Remember guys, the silver market is 10 times smaller than gold. So any geopolitical movement that moves gold could very well be magnified in silver. Now, I believe all these factors might actually contribute to silver setting it up for quite a bull market, right? Because the world is caught between the risk of higher inflation and the imminent threat of interest rate hikes, things are really gonna get volatile and spicy in the silver markets. We are already starting to see swings of 5 to 10% within days. And the great thing about this volatility is that as stackers, we can really capture great prices from dealers, right? I've been noticing that the more volatile silver is, especially when the price starts to dip down, dealers are more keen to give discounts on their premiums, right? Sometimes up to like 50% off the premiums for even some of the more popular coins like Canadian Maples. And do I think this opportunity will last forever? I don't think so, guys. If you remember the situation in early 2021 when the Reddit silver squeeze was going on, everyone was talking about silver and new people flooded into the market, right? Premiums were spiking and dealers were claiming that there was a silver shortage. Maybe a shortage really happened. Hey, maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And I really don't have time to play Inspector Gadget to investigate this. But this can very well happen again when mainstream investors turn their sights towards silver. I think we should be happy that prices are still in the low 20s and it kind of allows us to stack more during this period, right? Unfortunately, premiums will only continue to go up as time goes by. And while we are paying around 20% premiums for silver coins, I believe that, this amount could rise to 25% or even 30% if physical demand skyrockets, right? My personal strategy during this period is to steal dollar cost average into silver every month or quarter, and I set aside a small emergency fund to buy more if the price suddenly crashes, especially if dealers have a sale going on. I really encourage you to shop around the different dealers during this period because all of their prices can really vary, right? And while one might have no discount, another dealer could be having awesome deals. Now, I'm not saying to pour everything you have into silver. I'm not a financial advisor and I really urge you to do your own research as well. No one knows for sure if the perfect storm will play out, and the opposite might happen and we could see silver have a correction. I think it's really important to admit that we cannot time the market. No one is smart enough to do it consistently. Instead, I personally believe in averaging in to capture a smooth price. Time in the market always beats trying to time the market. And if we look back in history, we can see that gold and silver prices, especially silver, doesn't move in a straight line like the stock market. It isn't a nice, pleasant 5 to 7% increase every year, but a violent move up that is triggered by some big event. It is a sudden jump that normally happens when we least expect it. And that is why I think it is more important to get into position while we still can and not try to crystal ball the market. I really believe that things are starting to heat up in the precious metal space, especially so in silver. All it takes is for one of these dominoes to fall and it could really spark a rally that could surprise us. Right now, I think that we should be on the lookout for good deals in silver, and if you're still waiting on the sidelines, you might want to start getting into the metal, right? Just get your first silver coin, learn more about the metal, and see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Sooner or later, mainstream attention will be given to it, and the hype around silver will start to build once again. And when that happens, I think we can kiss low silver prices and premiums goodbye. So let me know what you think, guys. Do you think that silver will continue to trend sideways, or are we at the brink of a massive bull market just waiting to happen? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more gold and silver videos. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon.